for joining me. I was just wanting today to follow up on my previous video, which explored the relationship between Russia and Europe, because I felt there was still a little bit more to look at. Well, there's loads more to look at, but for me anyway, there was a little bit more to look at. And I was just a bit curious about NATO. Now, I don't know anything about this subject. I'm just the same as you. All I do is I work on what I'm told by Spirit and I pick it up. So in some ways it's easier if you know less, because I have fewer preconceptions about any outcomes or any expectations. And so in some ways that makes a reading clearer. But I was looking, I didn't know who, I thought, who runs NATO? You know, who is the fellow or the woman who oversees the decision making? And I discovered it's a fellow called Mark Rutte, and he is what's known as the part of the North Atlantic Council, and he oversees. He's like an international civil servant, if you like. And I thought, well, I wonder what he's like, because actually he has a lot of power in his hands, and he seems to manoeuvre. He has to manoeuvre everybody. It's a sort of base point where everybody goes, gives their opinion and decides what they want to do. And this fellow, Mark Rutte, oversees it all. I thought, what job, you know. Anyway, when I look into Mark Rutte, I want to ask myself what kind of a fellow I'm looking at. He is definitely very sharp, that's for sure. But you don't need me to tell you that, because you'd have to be pretty sharp, I'd imagine, to get a job like that. So what can you tell me about Mark Rutte in NATO? And NATO, how does it work with these two? This group and this fellow. He definitely has control. That's one thing I would say. There's no wishy-washy with him. He knows he's got control, and NATO responds. NATO, I pick up, is panicking. So that would suggest that the countries aligned with NATO and in NATO are worried because of the recent Russian antics, and of course, without doubt, the war in Ukraine. But I get NATO being quite frightened and worried, and that is a concern, because it suggests to me that there's nobody's prepared, or they want it over, or they don't know what to do. There's an element of control in this fellow, Mark Rutte, but there's not with some of those in NATO, I wouldn't say. Now, that is probably the countries I'm picking up, and much less the military group that would also be a part of the discussions and the decision making. So Mark Rutte, he has a steely vision and he does not waver. What's the problem with that? Well, it could be that he is a bit immovable when it comes to decision making. Once a decision's been made, that's it. But I can imagine that making decisions with a large group of other countries can be very cumbersome and time consuming. So I can see that perhaps that is a characteristic that could be valuable. Of course, he's not always dealing with NATO, is he? Because I can see him somewhere else. He's outside. He seems to like the fresh air. I can see him somewhere outside on a hill or on the side of a mountain, and it's grass and it's open, and he absolutely loves it there. Which is fair enough, because if you have a very stressful job, of course, you need to get away. So I suppose the question I wanted to ask really was, will Europe become more self-reliant at some point in the future, because that's very important. Are we going to find ourselves more self-reliant in the face of Russian aggression? Well, the time frame I'm working at is the end of this year and through next year to the end of next year, just to give you a clarification of the time frame that I'm doing the reading for today. So I would say, certainly I don't think this year, and I think probably the best part of next year, but I do see Europe's confidence growing. Now, that could be because, is that because we get, let me just check. Does America start to support Ukraine a bit? Is that what this is about? No. It's not. Do they provide bigger weapons? No. So it's not about America then? No. It's about Russia being put on the back foot, but I don't think that is until later next year. That's interesting. So many of our European countries are increasing their defence budgets as they need to. Will Europe be able to sustain and coordinate their spending in order to stand up to Russia? Will that happen? Maybe just about, but by the skin of their teeth. I don't see it being that abundant. So it might be that they can that Europe just about manages to boost things enough to set Russia back a bit. But Russia is like a great grizzly bear that has been shot. They might lick their wounds a bit, but they'll come back again. They're not, they just wait for the right time. They watch and wait, Russia do. I want to see how Europe does. They're feeling pretty confident at the moment, Russia, because they can see that Europe is in a real state, and we know that because we live here, So will Europe and NATO maintain a unity confronting Russia? There seems to be, as one might expect with a group of people, quite strong differences. Some people want to put their heads down beneath the parapet and don't want to deal with it. But I would say the majority of people making decisions in NATO say that this are making a stand so that Russia doesn't take advantage any further. That's what I would say. That's what I pick up. So will the EU take and Europe and NATO take a more aggressive stance towards Russia, or will it be more cautious? I wonder. I think that it's pretty united. I mean, I know I said to you that there are some people that just want to put their heads under the bed covers, but NATO does seem to have a unity about it, generally. I think, if nothing else, because the people involved in making the decisions, all of the parties, are going to be driven to realise that they actually don't have any choice. They've got to stand up and they've got to do something if they aren't already there in that decision making. So I think, if nothing else, that provides a level of unity within Europe for how to proceed. So will the prolonged conflict lead to a kind of disunity and fragmentation, or will it galvanise everyone to cooperate and sort of innovate in the defence sector? No, it won't. Unfortunately, there won't be a sort of unity of innovation and in the defence anyway, will there? No. And what about cooperation? Yeah, there is, in terms of, so let's divide that up. There's a unity of cooperation, but there isn't a unity in terms of the innovation as to how to deal with the defences in Europe. That's what I would say. I mean, will Europe eliminate its energy dependence on Russia at any point in the future? Yes. I don't see that. I don't see that over the period between the end of this year and the end of next. Will it? No. And will Europe? No. I think there are pockets that are trying to do it desperately, but I think that even the pockets, in terms of the small areas and countries that are trying to deal with it, are coming up against problems, which mean that, and obstacles, I'm being shown obstacles. So that would suggest to me that there are hurdles which are preventing our dependency, Europe's dependency on energy, which is a concern. Let's see what else. What else would I ask? So, will the EU set targets be met completely to phase out Russian energy by 2027? Will that happen? No, we're way off. No. Oh dear, no, that won't happen, which is a shame. Let's see, what else can I pick up? So I suppose we have to ask about destabilising the energy markets. Can it be done without destabilising the energy markets and putting them under pressure? No, it can't, actually. So I think that there's going to be more of the same as far as Russia and its as an energy provider, certainly for the next 18 months, I would say. Another area of concern, of course, is Europe's inclination and a sort of hybrid warfare in which Russia provides disinformation to the rest of Europe. I mean that's a form of attack, isn't it? With political meddling, if you like. Will Europe strengthen its cyber defence capabilities over the end of this year to the end of next? Will it at all? A bit? It's here and there. It's very unconnected. There's a bit over here and a bit over there. There's a yes over here, there's a no over there. There's nothing consistent. So it looks like they're not getting it together. That's what NATO could do, along with America, actually, to pull together the IT and computers and technology in order to do this very thing. But I don't see it happening, not over the next 18 months anyway. It might be in the process of happening. Is it in the process of happening? Oh dear, no. It's not even in the process of happening, so that's not a good sign, is it? So, what about our resilience? I mean, what about Europe's resilience and its unity? Is there a resilience at all in Europe? No. Is there a unity? Well, that's promising, because although there's little resilience, and it's dissipated and fragmented, there is a unity in wanting to do that. So I suppose that's a form of progress. If everybody is agreed it needs to be done. Is Europe equipped to counter Russian attempts at all, to sow discord and undermine democratic institutions? I mean, through its disinformation campaigns, is Europe equipped to counter those at all? No. And that time frame is between now and the end of this year and the end of next. At some point in the future, will somebody take the reins and deal with it? No. Not in the next 5 years, 10? Yeah, so there's no protection, really. No real concerted, united protection for Europe and the countries in Europe against Russia and its disinformation for at least the next 5 years. So it seems like there's quite a lot of work to do, doesn't it, for Mark Rutte and for the rest of Europe. Let's hope they start to work through the list, and it's a very long one, of Russia's forms of attack. It's a massive job, I'll tell you that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure having you, and I wish you well, and take good care of yourselves until we meet again. Take care, bye.